Lydia, over to you, if we may.
Thank you very much, Rosa, and to all of the organisers for inviting me along. I'm delighted to be here as well. I've been here for the whole morning and I've actually really learned a lot myself, and I've really enjoyed the other speakers. I don't have a great deal of time to talk through. I know the agenda's been quite packed with really useful presentations. So I will also be just skipping through some slides that are there for you to look back on for information in some cases. Also very happy for anybody to get in touch with any specific questions, and also will be responding to follow-up questions through the organisers as well. So if I could have my next slide, please, John. Thank you. So most of the people here are probably aware of who UKRI are. We are funded through BAYS. We bring together the 7 research councils, Research England and Innovate UK. And I'm mainly going to be talking about EPSRC's perspective, but I know we have already heard from Innovate UK and parts of UKRI outside of this presentation as well. Next slide, please. Yeah, next one. So I think it's relevant, and I can't really not discuss the industrial strategy. It's one of the flagship larger investments that is funded through UKRI. EPSRC manufacturing theme does play a key role in several of those. And if we could go to the next slide, please. One of those being the ISCF Manufacturing Made Smarter, £147 million investment. Objectives there on the screen. We have an EPSRC, ESRC, Innovate UK call open that's actually closing tomorrow for research centres and under this, and we hope that they will be able to help address some of the key research themes within the Made Smarter review and delivered through that programme, as well as other Innovate UK competitions that have been ongoing throughout the year. Next slide, please. Also the Medicines Manufacturing Challenge. This one is closer to the end of being one of the first waves of the challenge. We sit on the programme board for this one as an organisation, and they're doing some really great things, had an absolutely pivotal role in the vaccine task force, so absolutely supportive of that ISCF challenge as well. And there are many others that EPSRC contributes to and fund supports, sorry, but as Manufacturing the Future, those are the primary 2 that I just wanted to highlight. Next slide, please. There are other UKRI large funds that are in operation, the Strategic Priorities Fund, Strength in Places Fund, and Fund for International Collaborations. We do get engaged with those at various points in time, but we, depending on the allocation and outcomes from the spending review at a council level, don't know exactly what that's going to look like currently. Next slide, please. So as an within UKRI, EPSRC Manufacturing the Future theme interfaces with quite a lot of other parts of the EPSRC. We have really strong links with energy, engineering, AI and robotics, ICT, digital economy, circular economy, healthcare, and we do really try to be collaborative and work together, and I'm certainly made it an ambition since I joined the organisation to try and focus manufacturing in areas that can really support change that benefit multiple sectors of the engineering and physical sciences. We also work with other parts of UKRI listed there. We work quite closely with Innovate UK and trying to strengthen relationships between the teams and our counterpart team in Innovate UK, led by David Elson, the Innovate UK Manufacturing and Materials team. Also work with NERC, BBSRC, MRC, ESRC, and even AHRC on things like design and STFC, of course. Trying to engage more with the catapults. I think having read all the other presenters have made some really key points. There is a need for continuum of funding. Really have an ambition to help support that and look at what we can do to support that and what funding may be required from our side in order to do that, where we can leverage that and how we can support that. Also recognising that there's still very much from EPSRC's point of view, a need for that fundamental, sometimes blue skies research in manufacturing that we don't know quite what it's for, which industry it might be relevant to, but it's also really important to the research and innovation landscape. We do also work with the large facilities, Diamond, for example. We do try and work closely with businesses, also recognise the different and need of support for SMEs and how we can balance that with things like our prosperity partnerships, something we are conscious of and do try and work regularly and most often with universities. Also work with government departments like BEIS, and also the Department of Health and Social Care is one we work with quite frequently. Next slide, please. So I thought it might be useful today just to highlight our current Manufacturing the Future strategic priorities. These will look a little bit different from if you look for Manufacturing the Future on the website, due to some changes of moving over to a central UKRI website. It's not quite up to date, so I thought it would be very helpful to share. There are 6 strategic priorities there. These were developed through a series of community consultations, through our strategic advisory team, workshops and retreats over the last couple of years. And those sort of boiled down into these 6 topics. Responsive manufacturing, we ran a call this year and the panel is due in February for that. And that was felt really timely with the COVID pandemic to have a look at how we could have real-time self-adjusting manufacturing processes. Precision made and scalable at cost, also had a call this year and the panel for that is due in April. We're currently scoping up for our next year's activities that haven't been announced and launched per se, sustainability and function in manufacturing and digital technology for manufacturing. And they're going to be our 2 primary calls that we intend to run in 21-22, and the community will be getting details of scoping events related to those. And then we've also have priorities in advanced bio and chemical products manufacturing, where we hope to work with our colleagues in BBSRC, for example, and we will start scoping that in the summer of this year. The whole systems analysis, we decided probably wouldn't be a specific call in and of itself within EPSRC, but it's something we want to try and look at across the piece and how we can actually make sure that those ideals are being incorporated, especially bearing in mind net zero agenda and so forth. Next slide, please. Some of our big investments that I know several people in the audience are from, and also that most people here will be aware, but I can't do a presentation on the landscape and not talk about our future manufacturing research hubs. Currently 13 hubs across several waves of funding. The Vaccines and Vax Hub, again, very key, the Vaccines Hub being a key part of developing the Oxford vaccine along with MRC funding. So really good thing that UKRI has managed to support through this year. And those 2 hubs are funded by DHSC and administered by EPSRC, along with the rest of our hubs there. We will be looking to begin activity to look at the next phase of funding and critical mass, which does include our programme grants as well, which we have a healthy portfolio of, and also recognise some people from our programme grants in the audience too. And they are another key element of our landscape. Next slide, please. I thought it might be interesting just to present, as a Manufacturing the Future theme, our top 10 funded universities based on current grants. And on this first slide, you can see how that's broken down into value of funding. So these grants are where 25% or more has been coded as manufacturing, so they would be considered in the manufacturing portfolio. And you can see there may be what you might expect, some of the universities you might expect, and there may be things that people in there that you didn't expect. But it's one of the things I wanted to highlight, that how we carve up the portfolio, it can look quite different. So here we have it based on sheer value. And on the next slide, thank you, we have it done by number of active grants. So they can be across great scales. You might have lots of smaller grants. You might have some very big grants. And it actually changes the makeup of what the top 10 would look like. And so we're looking at who the main people that interact in manufacturing are when you carve it up in multiple different ways. There are lots of ways to look at it. I just wanted to include those 2 for interest and for comparison. Next slide, please. So I wanted to talk about specific opportunities for people in the audience. There's a new UKRI funding finder on the UKRI website, launched in October. If you use that link there or just go search UKRI funding, it will actually allow you to find all calls across all of the parts of UKRI, all of the councils in Innovate UK. It's actually a very useful way if you're not quite sure where your research fits, to find opportunities that might be relevant to you. Next slide, please. Also a real call from a manufacturing the future point of view. Our standard research proposals, standard mode is always open. We do have money available every quarter for this. It's actually quite undersubscribed compared to other mechanisms and other parts of EPSRC. So if you do have a really good research idea that you want to put in, this scheme is really flexible. Doesn't have to be a standard 3-year proposal of £2.5 million, which is what a lot of people think. Get in touch with us. We can let you know if you'll be eligible and if it's the right mechanism for you. But it's a really underused pot of money and resource for those really great ideas that you just have to get funded. So plea for people to apply there. Next slide, please. This is also one I'm just going to skip over very quickly, just to highlight that we do have a lead agency agreement with the NSF in the USA as well. If you get in touch with Stephanie in our team, we'll be able to point you in how to apply for that. Next slide, please. There are also methods open to apply for fellowships, networks, workshops, travel grants, larger scale research in programme grants. We also are looking at new mechanisms and things like interaction vouchers to help with working with small businesses. We run impact accelerators sometimes, feasibility studies. Just keep an eye out on what is going to be about. I don't have a specific slide for this, but based on a lot of the things I've heard today, I just wanted to highlight that we are trying to be more flexible, more agile. We understand some of the constraints and barriers in the funding ecosystem, and as a funder, we have to work within certain rules and criteria, but we do recognise the slow process and barriers to certain things and ideas, particularly around multidisciplinarity and that innovation landscape of going from very fundamental research to being really applicable to business at the other end. We are conscious of it. We are trying to actively engage with the catapults, with businesses, with academia, and all the people involved in between to see what we can do and how we can practically and really help with some of those issues. So we do welcome ideas. Please get in touch with myself or anyone in my team. If you could just go on to the last slide for me, that's just got my email address on there, if anybody does want to get in touch. We'll also be hosting a webinar as a theme sometime in February, and everybody will be in the community will be welcome to attend that if you do have specific things you'd like to address.